Ever notice how sometimes showing up as yourself still feels like a performance? Even when you've done the inner work, even when your voice is louder, clearer, something inside still braces for judgment, still performs, still tries to control the room. Today, I want to speak to that part of you, the part that wants to be visible without having to be someone else, the part that's tired of proving, managing, filtering. There is another way to be seen. Hello, everyone. I'm Caroline, spiritual life coach, meditation teacher, and your guide inside the sacred space where your voice meets your truth. In this episode of the Voicekeeper Podcast, we're talking about what it actually means to live out loud without losing yourself in the process. I'm really excited to talk about this topic. Last week's episode, we talked about that kind of messy middle, and I think this goes along with it really well because even as you start to work on coming back to yourself, it can feel a little weird to fully be yourself. And sometimes that can create other performative issues. So, anyways, we're going to dive into that today. And I wanted to let you know a couple things going on. When this episode comes out, I do have a new moon circle coming up. This episode will come out on Tuesday. The new moon circle will be on Thursday. And that is a free event. Please come. It's just a lovely moment for yourself to come. We breathe, we ground, we meditate, we do some journaling. It's really fun. It's all about the moon, which I love, living my life by the moon. So please come and join me. You can just head to my website, carolinehole.com, and go to the events page, and I'll link that directly in the show notes. But before we begin, let's take a breath together. I want you to inhale deeply through your nose. Hold for just a minute and exhale slowly out your mouth. Let your shoulders drop. If you're holding any tension, let your jaw soften. If you're in the car, you can do this without closing your eyes. Let the voice inside your body settle. And I want you to ask yourself, is there anywhere that I have been performing lately? Is there anywhere that I have been performing lately? No shame, no judgment. We are just here to witness. So, for many women, being visible has never been neutral. We've learned to perform so many aspects of ourselves, our confidence, our kindness, our reliability. We've been trained to read the room before we speak, right? And we've internalized this idea that to be seen, we have to be safe, polished, curated. And these are some generalizations, but I think they are really important historically to look at as women as we begin to unravel where a lot of this feeling of not being able to be ourselves comes from. Like, this is ingrained in our society, right? But what if being visible wasn't about shrinking or smoothing yourself to fit into the world? What if visibility is actually a sacred act of embodying your truth? Living out loud doesn't mean telling all your secrets to the internet or being the loudest voice in the room. It means you show up rooted, honest, and present with your heart still intact. And I want to do a little disclaimer here because when I talk about visibility, I know some of you may know me as having been a business coach, a podcast coach. I'm not talking about that kind of visibility. I'm talking about the visibility where you get to show up in your life as you, and wherever that may be, work, as a parent, with your family members, with your friends, with the activities that maybe you participate in. Okay, so visibility is not just a business term. This is a term for how we show up in our lives. So I want to talk about a few things today. And the first one I want to talk about is why we perform even when we don't to. Why we perform even when we don't want to. Caveat, I'm recording this today, and that is like the fifth flub that I have made. And I don't know if I'm going to edit this episode fully, but we'll see. Okay. Performance is a nervous system survival strategy. So we've talked a little bit on this podcast about your nervous system and how, our nervous systems were made for fight or flight, right? Our nervous systems were built to either fight the bear or run from the bear, right? But what happens is in our modern day world, the bear starts to become other things that aren't very bear-like anymore. And that could be standing in front of your friends and telling them some big news. That could be telling your mom and dad that you no longer practice the religion they do. It could be, you know, hanging out with your daughter's friends and you feel like they're all way more fancy than you are. And so what we do is we start performing. And that is a survival thing. That is your nervous system kicking in and saying, I'm going to protect you. I don't want anything to happen to you. I don't want you to feel bad. I don't want, so I'm going to help you to perform. And I just want you to know right away, like, it is not your fault. This is a protective reflex. Another really good example of this is good girl conditioning. So it's that like caretaker identity, that professional polish. This is that thing that I was talking about that's really deeply ingrained in our culture. I mean, I feel like I see it. I turn on the TV and I see it in people who are leading the news or, all kinds of things. I don't really turn on the TV very much, to be honest. So when I say turn on the TV, I'm either watching a documentary or tennis. I don't really watch the news or like I might watch the Daily Show, but there's not a lot of performative stuff going on there. But you know what I mean? It's that good girl conditioning that we see, and we see our daughters start to do it as well. I know that for me, I definitely see this with my daughters. They're afraid to say what they really think in front of certain friends. They might be afraid to wear an outfit that they were really excited about because it's just a little too far out there. This good girl conditioning, like having to be professional, having to keep the peace, it runs deep within us. So the second point I want to make is, okay, well, if this is something that we are, inherently comes with the territory of being a citizen in this world these days, what can spiritual life coaching offer you instead? And I want to talk about this a little bit today because I don't feel like I've talked about it enough on this podcast. And I really want to highlight this with the work that I do because this is an important piece that I tackle a lot. The first thing I want to say is I'm not here to fix you. I'm here to help you return to you. I truly, 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 truly believe that our inner selves, our inner knowing is the one that is authentically us. And it gets lost along the way in all of these things that, we've been talking about, performative and the good girl conditioning and all of those things. Spiritual coaching helps to give you language, spaciousness, and tools to stop filtering yourself through everyone's expectations. So my job really is to help you reconnect with that inner you and to be able to hold her as you move through your life. We work with your voice, yes, because I believe your voice is a very important part of that inner you, that inner voice, right? That inner knowing. But also we work on your nervous system, your truth, your rhythms, because these are all important pieces that are going to allow you the space to show up as you are. We anchor visibility in resonance, not performance. And what that means is being able to be really clear with yourself. Does this feel like me? And if not, what am I going to do about it, right? You get to be new, messy, uncertain, but still powerful. And that is really important for me. Like, as I work with people, I want you to understand that whatever decision you make, you are still powerful, you. And you don't have to arrive, right? Like, you don't have to be fixed before you get to be visible. You just have to be honest with yourself. And the third thing I want to talk about is how it feels to be seen from a place of wholeness. So, okay, well, great, Caroline. Let's say that I go through the whole thing. I feel like I've kind of found myself again, but what is that going to do for me? How is that going to make my life better? And one of the things that I love is it's just a quieter, softer way of being. It's like you've taken a big exhale and you're not projecting anymore. You're not feeling like you have to be someone else. The other thing that I love is you get to feel safe in your own presence. That fight or flight we were talking about? Oh, fight or flight has been within me for much of my life. And let me tell you how much better of a relationship I have with my nervous system now that I have gone through this process. I don't get as upset or anxious in the situations that I used to. And it's amazing. The other thing that I think is so huge is you will no longer chase approval because your life will be about cultivating alignment. And when you start cultivating alignment, you start living for yourself and the people around you in a totally different way. And it's such an amazing feeling. The other thing that I love is that you begin to trust yourself more, and you get to trust the vibration of your voice. You get to trust what you're saying. You get to trust how you're showing up. And even if your hands are shaking, you're still going to trust your voice. And that trust is something that I think we take for granted so much. I think about, college Caroline. She was a hoot and a half, friends. College Caroline, and, I had no trust in myself and my voice. I spent the entire 4 years in college totally performing, trying to be somebody I wasn't, trying to insert myself in spaces where I didn't feel like me. And what's interesting is then when I left college, because I had been doing so much performing, so much of all of that, it was like I had no identity at all, right? And it was a really hard time for me. And so whenever I think about this concept of trusting your voice again, I always think about college Caroline and how she would feel if she could see me now. And I'm sure that you probably have one of those too. You probably have someone, you have a phase of yourself where you're like, man, she just really wasn't all there. And that's okay because it's part of the journey. Again, no judgment, no guilt. No, gosh, I should have fixed that because you didn't know what you know now. And I think what's so great about being able to share my journey with you all and talk about these topics is that nobody talked about them with me. Nobody shared these things. Nobody told me I was supposed to be able to trust my voice. I don't know that anybody around me knew how to trust their own voices. And so my ultimate goal through this podcast, through my Substack, through the work that I do is to give you what I was never given, to be able to share the things with you that I wish somebody had shared with me. Because if they had shared them with me, I wouldn't have wasted so many years of not feeling like myself. A lot of amazing things happened in those years, so I can't be sad about it. And the fact of the matter is, it's brought me to this place where I am right now, which is an amazing place to be. But I do sometimes think about that. And so if this is something like you are thinking about as well, or you're like, yes, I totally get what you're saying. I do have a new container that's opened recently called the Voicekeeper Circle. We will be starting our full program in October. And this is practicing inside this space. We practice being seen through resonance and truth. Like you do not have to perform to belong to this space. It is built for women who want to reclaim the parts of themselves that were left behind while they were trying to be everything to everyone else. And if you're ready for that next step, I would love to have you join us. You can head to carolinehull.com/circle. And of course, I will put the link in the show notes. So this was a shorter episode today, but I feel like it's packed with a lot of meat. And so I really want you to reflect on what I've talked about. If something resonates with you, please come tell me, come over to my Substack. You can comment directly on the episode. And we can have a whole conversation about it. And I would love to do that. But I want to leave you with these closing thoughts as you go through your day and your week. Being visible doesn't mean being loud. It means being real. You can live out loud and you can live rooted. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you next time.